The Minnesota Timberwolves season came to a crashing halt last night after a blowout loss to the OKC Thunder, sending them home after a trip to the Western Conference Finals. Now, apparently the Wolves could be pivoting and changing their sights to bring in a superstar to pair with Anthony Edwards and hopefully go further the next season. We're also going to look at some destinations potentially for Naz Reid as he gets ready for free agency. And the Golden State Warriors are planning to follow the Mavs blueprint, but not in the way that you're thinking. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's NBA Central.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Star Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And so the Minnesota Timberwolves were hoping to get a finals appearance, and that just did not happen. And it is what it is when it came down to it. They made some mistakes. Anthony Edwards has already kind of talked about it and alluded to. He understands what he needs to do to be better for his team going forward. But the team is also in a place where it needs to be better. And this one comes from Jake Fisher, who talks about what the Minnesota Timberwolves could do when it comes down to it, saying this. Once those talks with the Warriors ultimately fizzled out, thanks largely to Durant's disinterest in the reunion, Minnesota's own approach for Durant was serious enough, sources say, that the Timberwolves were calling rival teams over the final few days before the February 6th deadline buzzer sounded. The Wolves were working the phones in hopes of finding avenues to get under the NBA's second luxury tax apron and then be able to aggregate contracts, all with the intent of landing Durant and his $51 million salary this season next to his Olympic running mate, Anthony Edwards. So now kind of Jake L. Fisher's putting out that maybe now with their appearance or what happened in the playoffs this year, that they now pivot that and go back to looking towards maybe bringing in Kevin Durant to pair with Anthony Edwards. Now, we just still don't know if Kevin Durant is even going to be signed, right? The Phoenix Suns have kind of been non-committal on what that future could be, right? Jay Williams has talked about it, saying pairing him with maybe Kevin Durant would be one of the best things that would increase his basketball IQ drastically. It talks of taking Anthony Edwards, taking his game a step further. If that's something that legitimately can happen, if they do make a move to bring in Kevin Durant to this Minnesota Timberwolves team, it'd be crazy. Kevin Durant is set to make $54.7 million next season in the final year of the extension that he signed in the 2021 season. Now, the Wolves would need to get under the second tax apron to make that happen, to combine the salaries, to make a trade for Kevin Durant work. Keep in mind, when you're over that second tax apron, you cannot trade multiple players. You cannot combine salaries to trade for a player with a larger salary. You can't even aggregate salaries to send two players for two players back. So it has to be a one-for-one trade when you're under that second tax apron, and that's why it was created. Now, the question is that would moving enough around make enough sense for the Minnesota Timberwolves to try to bring in Kevin Durant? What would that pairing look like? Now, I have my questions. I have my doubts. I'm not going to lie about it, but I will commend a team that that fell short. They fell short. They didn't do what they needed or wanted to do. But if they can make a pivot now to getting Kevin Durant in here, that'll be something to see. We've already said multiple times, this offseason is going to be crazy. Now with the talk of potentially, and right now it's rumors, so make no mistake about it. Let's not act like it's a for sure gone thing right now. But if the Warriors make a serious push, and they were apparently serious enough at the trade deadline where they were trying to set up the precursor deal that would be needed to make a move for Kevin Durant, maybe that's something that can be pivoted, and then we could see a really crazy Western Conference next year. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Is getting Kevin Durant enough for the Minnesota Timberwolves to go further, which I guess the only step further is to make an NBA Finals appearance? What do you think that would be enough for Anthony Edwards to get to the finals? Keep in mind, they would have to do a lot to get there, right? Now, with that said, one of the biggest questions as far as the roster for the Minnesota Timberwolves is what's going to happen with Naz Reid. Naz Reid did not have the best playoffs. He just didn't. It's unfortunate when it comes down to it. He didn't have the best playoffs. How that's going to affect his market, we'll see what happens with that one, right? But it's going to be tough for the Minnesota Timberwolves to retain some of their role players. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's an unrestricted free agent. Naz Reid has a player option for next year, which he's likely to decline. unless, him and his agent look at his play in the playoffs and think it's affected it too much, right? But that's a unique thing right here as far as it. So what teams, if Naz Reid does opt out, which then he could be looking for a deal that's close to $30 million, which the Minnesota Timberwolves would be very well priced out of if that ends up being the case. What are some teams that can make moves for Naz Reid? Of course, I would love for my Chicago Bulls to. We don't necessarily have the cap space, so that's probably not going to happen here. But it is something that you have to look around for teams and see what their need is, what the cap space is like. I do think the Hornets are a team that could come knocking for Naz Reid for sure. I think that they would be remiss if they did not. Now, the question is that going to be enough for a player that was just on the team in the conference finals? Is that going to be enough to try to make that move if it comes down to it? I don't know, right? But I mean that there are a team that could make some sense for him. If they decide to do that, that could be a sign and trade option as well there, right? The Brooklyn Nets are a team that definitely is going to be interested in potentially bringing him in as well, because I think they're going to be trying to look to spend some money. They have a need for a big when it comes down to it. They can play the 4. Next to it, we know that they're also shopping Cam Johnson, which could then open up even more of a need there when it comes down to it. So I think that like you look at those teams, but then don't overlook some teams maybe creating some space to potentially go after him as well, right? The Clippers could be another team that could be in on Naz Reid. Now, they would have to get creative to make that happen, right? So Naz Reid, I think, is going to have a fair share of teams that coming after him, right? I've seen an article out there that says that teams like the Wizards, were mentioned, and teams like the Pelicans. Now, the Pelicans are an interesting case because the Pelicans do have some big needs, right? Now, the question with the Pelicans always is that how healthy is Zion going to be? And if Zion's going to be healthy, then okay, what does that happen with that one, right? But I think Naz Reid is being a versatile player, and the Pelicans do have the 5th most cap space this offseason. I do think that is something that could help there. He has a good handle, he has a 3-point shot that could help that team quite a bit. So don't overlook the Pelicans in a case like that. Again, I'm not necessarily saying that it's the best destination for him, but I do think it is a team that could make some sense to try to make a move for Naz Reid. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. The next topic I want to get into is that reportedly the Golden State Warriors want to replicate or use the Mavericks blueprint this offseason, and specifically for Jonathan Kuminga. Now, what does that mean by that? No, that does not mean make a sudden trade that nobody expects and everybody says you lose to Luka. Not that part of it. This one also comes from Jake L. Fisher that says that one league source noted that how Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington altered Dallas's fortune 2 trade deadlines ago as a blueprint. Those two and a steady starting caliber center and versatile wing make a combined $28.8 million at the time of the trade. That's what they're looking for, right? Is that if they do move Jonathan Kuminga, they're looking to split that salary up and get multiple players back. It seems like all roads are pointing to Jonathan Kuminga, if he does leave, it being via a sign and trade, which makes the most sense. There are not a lot of teams with a lot of money out there. With the Golden State Warriors having restricted free agent rights over him, it makes some sense to, use those, right? And make sure teams know that you're not afraid to match that deal, because then you can kind of force them into a situation where a sign and trade may be the best option for them to land Jonathan Kuminga. I think that Kuminga is going to have a bigger market than what some people are estimating for him. I don't think he's going to be as big as what some people, but I do think he's going to have a big market. The Bulls have already been a team that's mentioned that could be interested, as long as I think the Spurs were mentioned in there as well. Those are kind of rumors when it comes down to it. But when a sign and trade is the most likely scenario, it really opens you up to all avenues, meaning that it could be any team. It doesn't have to be teams with just cap space in a sign and trade scenario because of the nature of sign and trades, right? So there are other teams that could be interested. You look at a team like the Kings, right? Looking to move off DeMar DeRozan. I'm not saying that DeMar can go to the Golden State Warriors, but if they move DeMar in a subsequent deal, they could be using that to try to acquire Jonathan Kuminga and then bring him in there. So there are definitely some other teams that are interested, but it seems like the Warriors are hoping that through sending out Kuminga in a sign and trade, they can get 2 pieces back that can help them on the run that they're hoping to do in the playoffs next year, which does make some sense for the team, right? We'll see if the Warriors are successful in that. We do know that they are in a place that right now, we even heard that they could be a team that could be interested in Drew Holiday, which would be crazy to see, right? But, their window is 2 years. And so for that 2 years, I don't think the Golden State Warriors are worried about the tax apron or anything like that. They're worried about this 2-year window that they have. 2 more years with Dre, with Steph, and with Jimmy. That's the window that they're hoping for. They want to keep those guys. We've already heard that they are not open to moving any of those 3 guys. They're looking to keep that and go for it and build something to where they feel like they can do some old man shit, right? That's really what it comes down to. They are hoping that they can find some old magic to go ahead and unleash it and have some fun next season. And so we'll see what they can do. I think that the Warriors being an aggressive and being focused, right? That's one place that you always want the Warriors in when they're focused on, hey, this is our window. I do think that that's going to give them a nice path and a nice focus to be able to get exactly what they need. And the question is are they going to be successful? The West is going to be deep, as it is every year. And you got that OKC Thunder team sitting right there waiting to turn into the next dynasty. So it's going to be difficult already being in the West. But I guess we'll see what happens going forward. With that said, another team that another player that's out there available is going to be Kristaps Porziņģis, right? And apparently, this one, again, coming from Jake L. Fisher, is that the Orlando Magic could have some interest in Porzingis. Now, I don't know how I feel about this one, right? We know that the Magic need offense, right? Their defense is pretty solid. Now, of course, we got to see what's going on with Mo Wagner as well. I think they're going to bring him back, but Kristaps Porziņģis could be an interesting scenario, right? Overall, I just don't know, right? And this is a 3-team trade when it comes down to it, as far as the Detroit Pistons, Orlando Magic, and the Celtics to get him there. But I just don't know if that's going to happen. In this trade that was pushed forward is that the Magic are going to get Kristaps Porziņģis. The Celtics get Caleb Houston, Mo Wagner, a 2025 second-round pick. The Pistons get Corey Joseph, Gary Harris, Batazde, and a 2025 second-round pick. I don't know if this is enough for the Magic, right? I want the Magic to be good. I really want the Magic to go on a great run next year in the playoffs. I would love for that to happen. I just don't know if that's going to be enough. Like, yes, you have Paolo there. You have Franz. Hopefully, Jalen Suggs is healthier next season. You got some things there that you can do, right? I just don't know if Porzingis, even though he'll fit with being a solid defensive player, has that huge contract. It's going to be a 1-year expiring deal. We know that when he's healthy, he can also put up some points. But is that going to be enough? That's the question that you have to have there, and we'll see. But that would make the Orlando Magic one of the longest teams in the league when you look at Paolo, Franz, Porzingis there. Those are your players on your front line. You got defense. You got perimeter defense there as well. So it'd be an interesting case if that were to happen. I just don't know if we're going to buy into it too much. But you guys can let me know how you feel on it down below. Now, with that said, the New York Knicks take the court today, trying to avoid the fate that the Minnesota Timberwolves faced last night, and that's losing in a 3-1 battle, right? Now, I do think that it's huge, especially now that the OKC Thunder have already wrapped up their series. The Pacers do not want to allow this to go to Game 6. You want to be able to get this series done, take care of it, so that way you can move on, you can focus on your game planning, which Rich Carlisle has been one of the best coaches in this offseason. But for the New York Knicks, what do they need to do if they want to win today? And it's just going to come down to, period, they're going to have to slow down Tyrese Halliburton. And that means that Jalen Brunson is going to have to be intentional about going over the screens, fighting through things defensively as much as he can. He's still going to be hidden defensively, but you can only hide him so much. Jalen Brunson is going to have himself a hell of a defensive game, meaning that just being active. If Jalen Brunson can be active and can make it to where, like I said, he's going over screens, making it interesting, getting a hand in the face of shooters, closing out, that can already do a lot for this team, right? Also, I think another key for the Knicks is going to be getting Deuce McBride some more minutes. Deuce McBride has been a really good player. A lot of Knicks fans are calling for him to play some more. He's been a breath of fresh air. You know what's happened. He's really been a spark plug for that team. But he's going to have to come in, and you're going to need somebody to be an X factor for you. And why not McBride? If it's not going to be anyone else. If McBride can get those minutes that he earned and play well in those minutes, it is what it is. Tom Thibodeau is going to play his starters a lot of minutes, but I do think Deuce McBride is ready for a larger workload, and we see what he can do in this game. And then lastly, they're going to have to play mistake-free basketball on the offensive side of the ball. It's been way too many mistakes for them offensively. If they can do that, play mistake-free basketball, then, it's hard. It's easier said than done, but that's what they're going to have to try to attain if they're going to want to avoid getting eliminated today. So we'll see. And, we'll be live after the game, because if the Pacers do win, we'll have our finals matchup set, so we'll do a little bit of talking around that. But you guys can let me know how you feel on everything down below. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. I'll see you guys next time I feel like recording an episode, probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.